Welcome one and all, it's time for another Kings of War battle report. 2,500 points, Undead versus Abyssal Dwarfs, but the shoe is on the other bony foot this time because I'm actually in control of the Undead, not the Abyssal Dwarfs. As you may have seen lately, I've been playing an awful lot of them. Today, I'll be taking on the Abyssal Dwarfs instead. Hello there and welcome, and to guide your eye around the screen, of course, we have Magic Arrow of Doom. I've got my army list right here, and we're going to dive straight in. This is the Fool's Gold scenario. Undead for me, Abyssal Dwarves for my opponent over there. And I'll go through any strategy or lack of when it comes to placing the tokens in a minute, but if you're not familiar with Fool's Gold, you have 5 bluff tokens each, and you put them down in each other's half of the table, and then at the end of turn 3, all the tokens are turned over so you can see which ones are worth 2, which are worth 1, and which are worth a big fat 0. So you could find that if you're camping on some tokens, they're not worth anything to you. And then you add those up at the end of the game to see who wins based on your unit strength in the area. So, you can see immediately from this picture there's a bit of a big wall of rocks opposite me. Some similarities between this Abyssal Dwarf list and the kind of list I've been running, but there are also a few notable differences. So we'll start with the Undead though. You can see that it's mainly around the centre of this army. So out on this side, on their own, we've got one of the 4 zombie hordes, and this one is put opposite the horde of Black Souls of the enemy because they have the Hammer of Measured Force, which is actually going to make them considerably worse when attacking zombies. So that's the ideal target for them. Got Matt and Mike in the chat already there. Since this is live, anyone who's watching, feel free to comment along and chime in if you spot any tactical insight that you might have, or anything of interest to you, or any mistakes as well. In the middle, we've got a couple more zombie hordes. We've got a troop of Revenant Cavalry. Behind them, we have 2 regiments of Soul Reaver Infantry, the ultimate hard-hitting death machines, who aren't quite as dangerous in this edition because their defences come down. They are cheaper to make up for it. The Necromancer behind here, and he has Surge and Bane Chant and the Inspiring Talisman. So he's going to be inspiring, and he's also got the aura to give vicious to zombies. So he's going to be hanging around them. As we move along, we've got Lady Alona right there. We've got a Vampire on a Pegasus here. And I used to run this quite a bit earlier in the previous edition. Not for the last couple of years of that edition. The Revenant King on Worm was kind of the go-to flying beastie for Undead then, but giving the Vampire on Pegasus another chance in this edition. This is my first game with Undead in 3rd edition. It's a bit of an experimental list. We've got 2 troops of Wraiths, and we've got Revenant King on a horse, sitting right in between them. Another zombie horde there. And I may have to move out the way here. So you can see another troop of Revenant Cavalry and a horde of werewolves. And do I have any artifacts that are notable on any of these units? There aren't too many artifacts in here at all, actually. There's also a Balefire Catapult somewhere. Has that been in any? Yes, there it is. There's the Balefire Catapult, which is a little bit different in this edition, how it worked previously, but not significant differences. And that is that. So I'm hoping that this big blob of killer cavalry here are just going to punch through what's opposite them, which happens to be lots of Defense 6 units, with zombies to just chaff them up, and Wraiths going to be good objective grabbers, potentially. They're speed 10. Got a couple of surging options around here. I've got Vampire, Pegasus, adding some speed and some dynamism. Over to the enemy. So we have a regiment of half-breeds and a half-breed champion. Then there are 2 hordes of grotesques, which are quite scary. And there's 1 mortar, which you can see is looking squarely towards my werewolves at the moment. Troop of gargoyles, Basusu, 2 hordes of lesser obsidian golems and 1 greater golem, and an ironcaster behind there who doesn't have any surge, curiously, but he does have heal and fireball, and he also has the item that boosts your heal by 3, so he's on to heal 6. And this unit here, I think, has +1 to hit, the Brew of Sharpness, these golems, so that makes them very, very scary. Luca is in the chat. And another mat, we've got 2 mats in there now. Mats, one of the mats wants to know if anyone else is furiously tawny painting for upcoming tournaments. I am actually. There's a tournament in about 3 weeks, and I am working on a few things on the table right now, including this very ancient spidery Abyssal Dwarf. I have to find out what that's going to be run as at some point in the near future. Whether it's going to be for the tournament or not, we'll see. Okay, so moving down, we've got an Abyssal Dwarf King and a horde of Black Souls, which is something I don't generally take. I normally like to run the 2 regiments for Mortal Guard, but we've got a horde of Black Souls here with the Hammer of Measured Force, which would be good against most of my units, but they're opposite zombies. Because all my cavalry defense 5, it would be useful against them. Heroes, it would be useful against, except the Necromancer. Just sending zombies at them. And into turn 1. And I believe that my opponent won the roll-off and elected to let me go first, I think. And everything is just advancing up. Looking for angles with the Wraiths here. If anyone wants to advance forward too far, these Wraiths will be looking for those flanks. Of course, they've got the potential to be surged into someone's flank by the Revenant King. If anyone wants to come up here, even if they don't immediately present any kind of sniff of a flank, and these Wraiths are going to be all over it. And the Pegasus Vampire would like a bit of flank action as well. He's only got 7 attacks. Oh yeah, there is an upgrade on him. I've given him the Blade of the Beast Slayer, which gives him extra crushing strength against anything that's large, like large infantry, monstrous infantry, large cavalry, monsters, titans. So that was designed in mind with any time he comes up against some other kind of monster opposite him. Another big flying beastie that's better than him. Because he can hit okay, but he doesn't have many attacks and his nerve isn't that obscenely high. Just something to help him out in those situations, and if he's threatening flanks on any kind of big, scary monster units. So in this game, he'll very eager to use that on something like Obsidian Golems at Defense 6. Would be a great target there. Everything else advancing up, you can tell that these zombies have been surged up, so they're considerably further. Everything else moving up, not getting into charge range of anything like a lunatic. Zombies moving as well. And not much to report other than movement in this turn. So, turn 1 for the Abyssal Dwarfs. Black Souls are moving up. Going to be much movement here? Not much. A little bit of shuffling around here, but again, hanging back a little bit, the Abyssal Dwarfs. What does the mortar do though? Well, it does 8 damage and immediately kills my right-hand flank Revenant Cavalry troop. So that's a nice screening unit dead, because they will be coming up against this area here. So that leaves me lacking a bit of support there. I've got the werewolves, and I've got the flying units that could head in this direction, but we're going to be a bit outmatched now. I'm not going to be able to block up the enemy as easily. My plan was to have the Revenant Cavalry to attack one of these, to just pin them in place for a minute while the werewolves come in and attack something else. But that is no longer an option. We'll see what I do to change my game plan based on that ill-timed demise there. And on to turn 2, so not much happening yet because there's very little shooting around. So, on my right, one of the Wraith troops have moved up, the zombies have moved up, and the werewolves charged into the half-breeds. They thought, why not, let's just have a go, and they actually killed them in one go. So, if we go back, this token that I placed here, I think this is the 2-point objective that I put down, so this is the valuable one. So I was hoping this side would go alright, but we've already lost a unit. But we've just retaliated and killed one. And the leader point of this unit of grotesques cannot see the werewolves, so they're not going to be able to do a double grotesque charge on them. So the werewolves might actually survive, even if they get double charged by half-breed champion and grotesques. They've got a chance, because it's not going to be a triple charge. These guys cannot see them. And here. So the Pegasus Vampire jumps over the castle, and he's looking in this direction here. For 2 reasons. One, with the Revenant Cavalry troop dead, I'm lacking in numbers a bit on this side, so I want something to threaten the grotesques. And 2, anything that could chaff me up is on this side. There's Basusu, and there's the gargoyles. So the worst that could happen is that maybe Basusu rear charges the Pegasus Vampire, and if she doesn't waver or kill it, then it can just ignore her. She's not even standing in its way, so it can just happily go on over there. Whereas if I was facing it in this direction, it'd be possible for one of them to attack him and kind of lock him down in that position because he'd be staring right at the person that attacked. So in this situation, it's okay to accept a rear charge. And there is only one source of surge in... there's no surge sources at all, actually, in my opponent's army, so I'm not worried about these guys being surged over here. If the Ironcaster had surge, I would probably not be attempting this manoeuvre, because I'd just be inviting the Obsidian Golems to turn around, walk forward 5, surge into the rear, and be good night, Pegasus Vampire. So, the fact that there's no surging at all means that I'm quite confident in this move. Let's see what's going on in the chat right now. Painting. And this battle report is perfect for someone working on Abyssal Dwarfs and Undead armies. Yes, it is. And the battle report before this one was Abyssal Dwarfs and Undead. And the battle report that comes after this one is going to be Abyssal Dwarfs and Undead. But the one after this one is going to be my Abyssal Dwarfs and a different Undead army. So you will get some variety, even though it's the same armies opposite each other. In the middle. So the Soul Reaver Cavalry do not want to get charged under any circumstances, so they're staying out of range. And we're just going to offer them some Revenant Cavalry instead, if they want to charge that. Preparing to be blocked in here by Gargoyles, but I've angled them so that the Gargoyles cannot block both these units because there's not enough space for them to land there. And then the Zombies are just chilling out in support. Lady Ilona is right there, the Wraiths up there. Zombies just awaiting the charge. And these Soul Reavers are looking this way, and I checked their arc of sight, so if those guys, if the Black Souls charge into the Zombies, they would still be within the charge arc of the Soul Reaver Cavalry, but if they charge in with the King, they'd bounce down a little bit and they would no longer be in the arc, so they wouldn't be at a flank charge. Which is not too big of a concern anyway, because I want these units to attack the middle where all the meat is. Those Black Souls are really slow, and I'm hoping to just avoid them for now. Lady Ilona has a bit of lightning bolt, so throws it at the Greater Obsidian Golem because she's not doing anything else right now, and puts a wound onto it. And that's how it's looking. So still not much action, but we have killed the half-breeds with werewolves, and I imagine there's going to be much more combat coming from the Abyssal Dwarf side now in their turn too. So the double charge goes off here to keep those guys out of the sight of the Soul Reaver Cavalry, as expected. Gargoyles land in the one place where they can block somebody, which is right here. There are ways around it. It depends what else dies here. But it is possible that I could get all these units into combat next time. We'll see what lives though. The Greater Golem and some lesser Golems go for the Revenant Cavalry, and the Zombies are attacked by these Golems. So the Zombies probably survive a round. They've got high nerve. These guys are probably going to be toast. This guy's got Strider, so he's not coming out or difficult terrain. Where is that nice castle terrain? And that is actually an incredibly cheap. It's like a toy set, a toy castle, and it's got all kinds of walls and towers in it as well. If you look at one of my previous battle reports, I think the one right before this, you can see the towers that come with it as well, and there's lots of wall sections, and it was very, very cheap. So if I remember, after this, if you leave a comment after the video, remind me, then I'll get you a link items. Interested in getting one because they're not expensive at all. So they will probably die. Gargoyles just trying to be a blockage. Over here, Basusu attacks the Pegasus Vampire, hoping to at minimum ground it and maybe hope to get a waver or something on it. And over here, so one unit of Grotesques and the Half-Breed Champion into the Werewolves. We'll see if they can survive one turn, because if they survive a turn and the Vampire and Pegasus doesn't get wavered or killed, then it'll have a rear charge on the Grotesques. That would be perfect. This unit just turns around a bit because they can't join in right now. Pegasus Vampire takes 3 wounds from Basusu and no waver. And the Werewolves only get wavered. 10 damage. So, yeah, that's not a wildly unexpected result there. So that means that the Pegasus Vampire is now going to have a juicy rear charge on the Grotesques, which is very nice. here, these zombies take 10 damage, so they will probably die next turn, but not this turn. I'm not even sure it would have been bad if they did die here, because it would have opened up charging lanes for my Soul Reavers. And the Revenant troop are dead, so both my Revenant cavalry troops are dead, but these ones have done their job. And things are in range. We're going to do some charging now. But look at this. This zombie horde goes down in one go to a Black Soul horde with the Hammer of Measured Force. Zombies are usually being wounded on 2s, and they were being wounded on 4s here, but still managed to take 11 damage, and then 11 or maybe 10 if he's got Brutal on the nerve check. So those zombies are toast. And they turn inwards, so I do have to worry about them now. It means I can't really charge the gargoyles, because I'll probably kill them, very likely, but then whichever way I turn after combat, I'll either get charged in the flank or rear by golems or the Black Souls, so I can't attack the gargoyles. So, if we look at this situation in the centre with that human hand there, checking some arcs of sight, then what am I going to do here? Well, I do have options. These guys are so tall that I can see them with lots of different units, so I can do multi-charges. So what I'm going to do is charge this unit here, the Zombie Horde, and Lady Alona, a double charge into these Lesser Obsidian Golems, which is going to bring the fight a little bit this way, because Lady Alona only needs to hang off the edge slightly, which is going to open up the flank of the Greater Obsidian Golem for the Wraiths to charge into. I can then charge into the front of that unit with these Soul Reavers, and that leaves this unit with not much to do. Because like I said, if I attack the gargoyles, I'm just immediately going to die next turn, so these guys are actually going to go backwards in a minute. These zombies are just hanging out as backup. So did I have any other options here? I'm not sure whether I could have got any other kind of double charge in on this unit. The zombies are moving sideways. I don't think would leave me enough space to get a double charge with the cavalry on this guy. So there's possibly other things I could have done here, but it would have required all kinds of shuffling around. That's what. So you can see that that charge is definitely on, and the Wraiths and the flank is on as well, just to finish them off, as if that isn't scary enough. Turn 3 for the Undead. So Wraiths in the flank, Pegasus Vamp in the rear, and Grotesques are dead. Werewolves are just chilling out there. Zombies have just moved up support, and maybe this objective will be worth something. I think this is the one I put down that might be worth 2, actually. I think this one's actually worth something to me. These zombies were Bane chanted. Galzag is in the chat, hello there. Bane chanted zombies horde into this unit, and Lona joining in with the charge. So managed to get 8 damage on them. Wraiths in the flank, Soul Reaver cavalry in the front, only managed 10 damage between them, which is quite disappointing. I was hoping that would be enough to kill that, but Soul Reavers, they only have Thunderous 1, Crushing Strength 1. It's not a ridiculously low stun there. And this unit goes backwards to get away from the Black Souls. They're not under threat from anything now, just waiting to unleash a furious charge on something. So, I was hoping this unit would die. I wasn't so confident about this one with just Bane-chanted zombies going in. So the fact that that unit didn't die tells me that maybe I should have been trying to get the Necromancer into a position to Bane-chant the Wraiths instead. But never mind. And the Revenant King has just moved up here a bit because he might want to help out on this side shortly. So, turn 3 for the Abyssal Dwarfs. Half-breed champion is hoping to kill off werewolves who are already heavily damaged, so I'd expect him to kill them off. Grotesques into the slightly wounded Pegasus Vampire. We'll see if that's going to be enough to kill him as well. And Basusu joins in as well, so that's going to make it very likely that that vampire is going to die. The gargoyles turn around and just jump over my lines. They're staring at my catapult right now. Then we've got the Greater Golem and the Lesser Golems double charge on the Soul Reaver unit there, so that's probably going to get killed. The Wraiths are left alone though. Then the zombies are going to be countercharged by this. Mortar. 5 damage onto the wraiths on the hill. And the werewolves are dead. Vampire and a Pegasus is dead, so this flank, there's a couple of juicy units there. Actually, yeah, it looks like this unit countercharge Ilona. So they do 8 damage, but not enough to worry the good lady just yet. Because, of course, if you kill Ilona in that situation, you can then overrun and hit the zombies as well. So, see the logic behind that. However, Ilona wasn't really damaged yet, so possibly the zombies could have been killed with that much damage put on them. And they probably would have taken more damage as well. Significantly less. Soul Reaver Cavalry dead here. Paying the price for not finishing off the golem there. And the lesser golems move forward so that they're preventing the Soul Reavers getting into the flank of the greater golem here. But that does mean that they are now open to a flank charge from the wraiths. And so this unit has the choice. Is it going to charge in there? Is it going to charge into the Black Souls? Let's find out. So we reveal the tokens now as well. So the one right at the back in the corner that nobody is anywhere near at the moment is worth 1. That one here is with the zombie horde, and the wraiths is worth 2. There's a 1 pointer up there. No scoring units particularly close to that. The one underneath my zombie horde is worth 2 points, which is quite exciting because I've got quite a little bunker in here. There's a 1 pointer right there, and the golems. 1 pointer next to my cavalry on the left flank, and all the others were 0, so they've been moved from the table. So, know how much everything's worth. 1 pointer there, 2 pointer under them, 1 pointer there, 1, a 2, and there's turn 4 for the undead. So this zombie unit, this is on my right flank, they're just making sure they're not on the hill so that none of the characters over there can see them. So if they're going to get charged by anything, it'll just be grotesques and not Basusu and half-breed champion as well. The wraiths decide to charge the mortar, kill that. So they're now chilling out near an objective, and they're also in a very threatening position. You'll see a better angle of how threatening they are in a moment. So the zombies charged in here, didn't do too much. Lady Ilona charged into the greater golem and tried to finish that off, but was unable to. Not much damage done there at all. It was healed up a bit last time, I think. And the lesser golems here are dead. The wraiths in the flank and the Soul Reaver cavalry in the front, so they're gone. And not under threat from the Black Souls yet. They're slightly out of shot, but they're not in range to charge anyone, and it's looking quite healthy around here. I'd expect the zombies to go down next turn. If Ilona dies, then there's an overrun potential from the greater golem onto the zombies. But that's not too much of a concern, because I'm kind of expecting both those units to die next turn anyway. It's going to leave me with these 3 units alive to guard the centre against the Black Soul, which I think is definitely doable. Still actually need to kill off these units, but they're at death's door anyway with the amount of that's on them. It's 2, 6 things there. And over on this side, the zombies are just going to try and hang on. But look at these wraiths. So, they're facing straight this way. Anything on either side is in danger from their 20-inch charge. And they're not worried about landing in difficult terrain either, because wraiths have strider now, which is very nice. It makes sense because they are ghosts, essentially. So why would ghosts worry about offence? Turn 4 for the Abyssal Dwarfs, so grotesques over the hill into the zombies. Unavoidable. The half-breed champion couldn't join in the charge because he couldn't see, so he's just come over here to help out and just to sit there. The lols. Which does open up the possibility of me charging the wraiths into that guy and then going into the flank with an overrun, but the wraiths would have to actually kill him, which is very unlikely. What would have been much more tempting would have been if he'd left the flank totally open and the wraiths charged into that flank. Zombies in the front, wraiths in the flank. Suddenly it's looking a bit scary for the grotesques, but they don't like their chances of overrunning a half-breed champion with any attacks. Seems unlikely they would do. Over here, so what's going to be done? Greater Golem goes in there, the lesser into the zombies, so I'd expect the zombies to die, and the catapult of course gets charged by the gargoyle, and they kill it. Lady Ilona gets up to 10 wounds, but then gets double wand. So it's not a true double one because she's not beyond the point of any other roll, but it's still a double one. See, Chris says 20-inch charge. You better double check that. Winky face. Let's see. Right, let's have a look at the wraiths. Ooh, yeah, there you go. They've dropped down to speed 7. I didn't notice that. I knew that whites were now speed 7 as a flyer. I didn't realise the same was true for wraiths. That makes them a much less enticing proposition. So yeah, need to double check on that there. So let's go back and see. Had they been playing correctly with the wraiths? 14-inch charge, what is that a threat to? Definitely not over here. Possibly over there. So there you go, folks. Always look at unit profiles when there's a new addition. Because, yeah, that makes them much worse, as far as I'm concerned. Wraiths. Okay, where were we? I think we were here. So Ilona, double wand. Then the zombies are toast. They take a load more damage. They're gone. But this unit is still got its flank facing the wraiths, so they're going to be flank charged in a minute. Basusu attacks the Revenant King and does 2 wounds. And the Grotesques do 7 wounds to the zombies, so it's a start. Got to start somewhere with those things. Very slowly. And it's still looking okay. We've got a flank charge there, and with Ilona as well, I would hope killing off the Greater Golem. And the Soul Reavers are looking at the Black Soul Horde. They're going to hope to kill that as well. Turn 5. So the zombies do 3 wounds to the Grotesques and life leech 1 back. The Wraiths. And so the Wraiths recharged the Golems that were here. Whether that was a legal charge or not under the rules, I don't know, because I can't go back and measure on the table because all the terrain's been moved around now. So let's just assume that they shouldn't have been able to do it, because they're actually only speed 7, which affects the play of the Wraiths in this entire game. So that horde of golems is dead. The Greater Golem is dead because that was attacked by Wraiths in the flank, Ilona in the front, so toast. And the Soul Reaver Cavalry, very disappointing, only do 6 wounds onto this horde of Black Souls. That's incredibly disappointing there. So we've still cleared out the middle. It's looking very healthy now. I've got lots of scoring units here. My opponent only has that horde in the middle. I've got 4 units in there that can all score. But Basusu is still around, so always a threat. And over on that side, I'm not confident at all. So there's a 2-point objective there that my opponent is definitely going to get, because the zombies are going to lose eventually. There's a 1-point objective there that the gargoyles can reach by the end of the game, so that's going to be 3 points for my opponent. So in the centre, I need to hold the 2-point objective with the zombies, 1-point objective with some wraiths, and that will get me at least a draw. And then if one of these 2 units can grab a 1-pointer, there's a 1-point objective down there. So if I can chew through this unit and take that, that should be enough. Chris says, yeah, they're not that great. Yeah, they seem pretty terrible if you ask me, based on speed 7. I can't really justify picking them anymore. I'm going to have a serious look at the undead list at some point if I'm going to go further in this edition. I'm sure I will do at some point. So I'm focused on the Abyssals at the moment. Turn 5. So, gargoyles heading for that objective, of course. Black Souls into the Soul Reavers and the King as well. So with the Hammer of Measured Force there, how many wounds would I be expecting them to do? Probably enough to... probably not enough to kill them, enough for a solid waver, I would say. And Basusu goes into the wounded wraiths. And a fireball on Ilona, and there's another double 1. But again, it was a 5 required for the waver, so it's not a true double 1, but it's still... Zombie horde dead on this side, but they were going to die eventually anyway. And the Grotesques can't participate in the game now because they sit and guard this 2-point objective. So the Half-Breed Champion has no such restrictions, though. He doesn't have to stay here, so he overruns and he's going to try and get the game. But look at this. 10 wounds on the Soul Reavers and takes them out. Soul Reaver Cavalry dead. So not very nice at all there. And look at this. Basusu kills off the Wraiths as well. So again, I would have hoped that they would survive on that much damage as well, with the Inspiring nearby. Alas, they are also toast. So I've now only got 2 units to score in this area. So what am I going to do? Because Ilona can't see the Black Souls, and that's the unit that needs to die. I need to charge them with the Wraiths and Ilona to have a chance of taking them out. The zombies have to stay here on the 2-point objective. So what I'm going to have to do is move the Wraiths in this kind of direction, which, knowing that their speed 7 isn't even possible, they're going to have to land somewhere around here so that Ilona can see that unit. She'll charge in, and then the Wraiths will be surged into combat. Because if I just charge them in and declare both of them into that facing, they have to both be able to see the unit at the same time, and Lady Ilona won't be able to see through the Wraiths, even though they're ghosts. Yeah, that should be a rule. That would make Wraiths more enticing, actually. You could see through them, due to their ethereal nature. How would you word that? They don't provide cover or don't block line of sight, something like that. Be a good rule. Okay, then here we go. My turn 6. So that plan goes off, as I said, and Bane chanted the Wraiths as well, the Necromancer, because the Revenant King surged them in, and get that much damage on them. So another disappointing round on the Black Souls, and can't kill them again. So I'm going to need turn 7 to clear them out. The zombies still sitting on the 2-point objective, and that's it. So turn 6 for the Abyssal Dwarfs. The Gargoyles move on to the token. Grotesques just chill out on their objective, and Black Souls and the King are doing some attacking here. I think they're all in on the Gargoyles, actually. Oh, not the Gargoyles, the Wraiths. And Basusu goes after the Necromancer, just to prevent me from doing spell casting if there's a turn 7. And a bit of Fireball on the Revenant King doesn't do anything. And Wraiths get killed, look at that. They only took 4 damage as well. So a very good nerve roll to take them out. And I think Ilona actually got killed as well. So who killed Ilona? I think it was these guys who killed Ilona and then overran into Wraiths. So that was Ilona's damage there. She died, and then they overran into the Wraiths. Took 4 damage and dead. Nice roll to get rid of them. Zuzu takes care of the Necromancer. So that means these guys are also scoring now. So really, even if there's turn 7, what can I do? I can kill this unit with the Revenant King. I get here all. He's got only 3 attacks, so he could do it. And the zombies will have to stay there on the 2-point objective. And then I would just lose because I can't kill both these units. So the fact that the Wraiths are dead means that I can't really win the game anymore. And we do not get a turn 7 anyway. The game is over there, so the Gargoyles are scoring there. The Grotesques are scoring 2 points there. 1 point for the Black Souls. 2 points for the zombie. So, that is a win for the Abyssal Dwarves, a loss for the Undead, and how do I feel about the Undead list? Okay, so even with the extra speed on the Wraiths, I think my list, outside of the Soul Reavers, was lacking a little bit of hitting power. I think the Vampire on Pegasus is a lot of points, a small number of attacks, and reasonably low nerve. Flyer like that. I'm not sure whether I would pick him again. There's some other options. Even just the model I used for the Vampire and Pegasus can be used as other things. There's the new Undead monster, the Goreblight, I think it's called. Looks a bit like that. It doesn't fly, but that would be an option to use it as that. The zombie hordes did fine, apart from the one that died really early, but that was just a really high nerve roll on them. But of course they weren't inspired, so you're leaving yourself open to that when it happens. The Revenant cavalry troops did alright. I think it was possibly unnecessary throwing away the one on the left, because I had the speed advantage over nearly everything there anyway, and there was no surge available to me. So I probably could have just sat back and waited for them to come closer and then gone for multi-charges. There were gargoyles there that could have frustrated my advance. If the enemy push up behind the gargoyles, then this unit charging. So the scenario, putting the number 2 objective out there, I thought that side was looking quite solid for me, because I thought I was going to dominate the centre with my Soul Reaver cavalry, just totally clear that out, and I was going to use Wraiths and the Pegasus and all that good stuff to take over this area, with the werewolves and the zombies as well coming in. That didn't go as planned, that flank obviously, because I've got nothing left there, and it has. And what else? over on the flank where I had the zombies opposite the Black Souls, obviously that didn't. Overall though, for the first undead list I've made in this edition, it's quite an interesting one. Obviously, looking at the fact that Wraiths are only speed 7 now, there's no way I would put them in there for that number of points, I think. So what would I put in there instead? Because that was, in total for those two units, 240 points that I could have spent. How much are the Soul Reaver Cavalry? 250. So if I just dropped one small upgrade and the Wraiths, I could have had another regiment of Soul Reaver Cavalry, which I think would be a better investment there, most likely. The Revenant Cavalry, they're fine, I think, as a troop. 105 points. They're not the easiest to kill, dash 14. Obviously, when they get hit with a mortar and take 8 wounds in the first round, then they get... Werewolves are fine, but... yeah, the werewolves did their job in this game, I suppose. They killed a unit that's around about their point value. And then they survived a charge, which you'd expect them to do with their decent defense and nerve. And... overall... the undead lists that I've seen doing well in this edition don't look anything like my list. So, we'll see. I've seen a lot of Soul Reaver infantry out there, and I've seen a lot... the one notable, very successful undead list I've been seeing involves lots of... I think it's lots of werewolves and lots of wights, which are the flying speed 7, large, which are quite terrifying, and possibly... big vampire dragons, tasty as well. We looked at them yet. I used to run the one I was using is the Pegasus vampire in this. Can't use that as an undead dragon or a revenant king on a worm anymore because the base is too small. So I'd have to put it on top of a bigger base. So let's disappear from the screen. This thumbnail. Any more comments that want to come in before I wrap this one up? Going to be closing this one down any minute. I'm sure in a few days' time, possibly next weekend, you'll see the next battle report that I also played today, which is my Abyssal Dwarfs against some Undead. And you can see the maiden voyage of my Overmaster on Great Winged Half-Breed, which is a very nice centerpiece model for the army. See how that goes on in that game. So, just waiting to see any more comments. King John says more delicious tactics with the Great Orange Andy. Yep, hopefully you were able to pick up some tactics and also some insight on how to accidentally cheat and use the wrong speed for one of your units because it changed between editions and you just hadn't looked over the army list closely enough. Zombie Hordes, I think are really good value, 115 points, the dash 22. Got no defense to speak of, but just throw them at something that has the Hammer of Measured Force or something with loads of crushing strength, and they're just being wasted against the zombies. And for only 115 points, you can't really argue with that. Even when they die, who cares? It's not that much. You could put even more of them in there than that. And zombie legions, I've seen a couple of those around in this edition as well. I do like to run those. I may try out a multiple zombie legion list as well at some point, next time I give the undead a run out. Of course I need to give the Rordia and the goblins some love soon as well. Mike says, how do you feel about the artillery in both armies? The Abyssal Dwarf artillery, very, very good. The heavy mortar for the Abyssal Dwarves is probably the best war machine, and you pay the price for it as well because it's expensive. So if the enemy actually get to attack it, then you're losing more than most races are, especially when you compare it to things like the Goblin Rocklobber. But the Abyssal Dwarf one does significantly more damage, because even if you only get 1 hit out of 2, you can still be doing quite a healthy number of wounds that can worry the kind of units that you would want to be shooting at with a mortar. Things like cavalry regiments and ogre hordes, things like that, werewolves. Anything along those lines where you're thinking 1 decent hit and you can possibly send them a first-class ticket to Waver's Town rather than killing them in one go. In the previous edition, 1 hit, because it did more with an Abyssal Dwarf mortar, you would be thinking 1 hit and I can potentially kill them in one go. Whereas in this edition, you'd need 2 hits to really think that you're going to kill something. Just hitting with one of the attacks with the Abyssal Dwarf one is enough. The Undead one is actually kind of interesting because it's not vicious anymore, but you can reroll D3 of the wounds that failed, which is typically going to be all or most of the failures that you get. You're going to be able to reroll them. So that's quite a good rule for them, I think. Just differentiates it a little bit from vicious with the old Balefire Catapult, and it is cheaper, of course. And you've got another couple of tricks with that as well. With it being shambling, you can give it halt order and then surge it onto a hill so you can see something, for instance. That doesn't come up too often, though. Overall, I like War Machines in this edition. I don't think they're totally broken, the way some people think they are. We'll see, though, when I get my Goblin triple Rocklobber list out there with the Wingit. Doing some scouting for it and some more pup launchers in there and some War Trombones. See if I think the War Machines are broken or not. At the moment, I haven't seen anything to suggest that they're unplayable. The lists I run tend to have things that can threaten War Machines as well. I think my Abyssal Dwarves, I generally have Susu and Breki in there. Threat to War Machines. And got to bring something that can chase them down just in case you meet a few of them. They set up a fierce line. King John, will you be doing any more army reviews? Yes. I was holding off a bit on the army reviews because I wanted to play enough games with the armies first. I feel like I can probably do a decent Abyssal Dwarf army review now for this edition, so I'll probably do that soon. There's a couple of units I haven't tried yet, either because I don't have models for it or because they just don't look that enticing. But obviously I can talk about that. I think I've played enough games though to have a pretty good idea what I can compare each unit to, so that'll be coming soon, I think. The other armies I'll wait till I've played a few more games, because we're still early in the edition and there's a lot of things I don't know yet about the armies. Even Goblins, I played them a lot last edition, but got a lot to learn in this one. They've got some new units and some new tasty options as well that experiment. Okay. John says, glad to see you playing. Yeah, I haven't played Undead much at all. I haven't played them at a tournament for at least, it's got to be nearly 3 years now. Last played Undead at a tournament. Because last year it was Rordia and Goblins. The year before that it was all Goblins. The year before that, I think it was probably mostly Goblins. I haven't played them in a tournament for ages. And will I play them in a tournament anytime soon? It's hard to justify it because they just don't look as nice as my Abyssal Dwarves. And in the last edition, it was hard to justify choosing them over the shiny new armies, which were my Rordia and the Abyssal Dwarves, and the army that I knew the best, which was the Goblins. Goblins, of course, being the only army that I've actually won a tournament with. So, we'll see if they ever get onto the tournament field again, the Undead. They may appear in the guise of my Undead Rordian army. I may use those models to put an Undead army out. We'll see if I put something interesting together. Let's have a look and see what I can do there. But it's possible. Okay, wrapping this video up now. Don't forget to check out all the links in the description. There's a link to the mat that I use for this game as well, if you're interested in getting battle mats. And that's actually in the description of all my battle reports. Whatever mat I used in that video, there's in the description. Don't forget to check out all the various social media shenanigans. I've got a Facebook group down there. There's Twitter and all that stuff. And of course, there's various links for you to send me all your life savings because you love the battle reports so much and you want to financially incentivize me to make zillions more of them on a weekly basis. And all that remains to be said, I think, on that note is good night out there, whatever you are.